Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. What I'll do is we'll, 30, 35 minutes, and then I can answer the questions. If you have any questions, you can put it on chat, or even I can take the questions at the end once the session is done. Okay. So you hopefully you read the, what exactly this session is all about. It's about how to learn through movies. I mean, I reckon everybody watches movies. I'm sure that everybody does. But the way we watch movies, that's a totally different way. But there is always learning in everything, as you may know. You know. So that's the first thing that I want to say. Primarily there is learning in everything. So there is learning in movies too. But sometimes what happens with movies is like, say, for example, we are watching Avengers or something, we get all tuned into the, superhero stuff and the costumes and the drama and everything. And we forget, oh, there's learning also in this, primarily we forget ourselves in the story. But that's the essence that we need to conquer when we are doing a PGDM course and when we are thinking we need to learn from movies. So what I'll do is I'll take you through some primary ideas of how you learn from movies, what exactly is the approach that you should take, and of course I'll give you some suggestions, but of course the movies that you pick is your own ideas and depends on your interest and stuff like that. I will of course align certain documentaries and things like that, because learning is from anything which is a moving image these days, with you guys being on YouTube and Vimeo and Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hotstar, Disney. I mean, it's like everywhere. So since you're stuck on the mobile phone and since you love the mobile phones, so the best thing to say is you can watch anything that you feel like. You'll learn from it. No questions about that. But how do you watch it is the primary essence. Now, when I watch something like, say, for example, an Indian movie, say, for example, Tare Zameen Par. Now, the thing with Tare Zameen Par is, that's our first language. That's our mother tongue. So what happens with our mother tongue is, as soon as we listen to something, we remember things, we remember the dialogues, we remember the context, we connect easily with the people. So after the movie ends, we'll sit together with our friends and we say, hey, that line was so fantastic. That moment was so fantastic. Hey, what did I learn from the movie? You pick a lot of things about empathy, about what autism was and things like that. Say for in terms of Tare Zameen Par. Now, once you get the groove and once you get the understanding that this is what is happening, the same thing has to be applied in, say, a Hollywood movie or a documentary that you're watching. So that's the difficulty part, because it's a second language. Now, the difficulty is the essence, how to pick up the essence, because we are so overawed again by the story and the drama, but because it's our second language, we are not so overawed by the speech patterns, by the way, the cultural differences and all that. That kind of hinders us. So I'll begin with, say, for example, how do you improve your communication skills? Say, for example, you're watching something. So, one of the essence that you need to do is with respect to communication skills is, say, I don't know how many people here have watched the TV series called Friends. Now in Friends, that's 5 friends living together and, they're chit-chatting to each other. It's a regular aspect of life. The conversations are regular. So you keep listening to stuff and you keep listening to stuff. And sometimes you miss a particular cultural exchange. And when you miss that particular cultural exchange, you need to get curious about what is happening. Now, curiosity is a primary skill set of, say, for example, a management student. One of the first things that you need to learn in management is you need to be curious. You need to be curious about everything. Now, when I say communication, when I say communication skill improvement, it doesn't mean you need to improve your communication by constantly trying to practice something or not like that. No, I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of listening very carefully. And if you did not understand anything, you have the brilliant thing called Google. You search through Google and you find out what exactly does that mean. Or if you find certain characters suddenly popping up, and you sort of see that a particular character has said something and you do not understand the context behind it, you can go through it. And one of the best things about Google is, as soon as you search for something, it says, even if you kind of made a mistake, it says, did you mean this? So you can click on that one and you move ahead. And when you move ahead, what happens is you start getting curious about more things. And when you start reading more and more and more, you keep expanding your knowledge, and in turn, you're improving your communication skills. That's the first aspect of thought. Now, another movie that, what do you call it? Another movie that we say is 12 Angry Men, which is an old movie. It's a legal movie. And in 12 Angry Men, it's 12 people sitting together and trying to figure out if somebody is a criminal or not a criminal, the jury system in America. So they try to figure out whether this person is a criminal or not a criminal based on their perceptions, based on the logic given by the lawyers and things like that. Once you listen to all this, this is hardcore conversation. For 1.5 hours, 12 people are sitting in a room and trying to convince each other about their viewpoints. Now, this is exactly what you do when you run a business. You're trying to convince other people to believe in your believe in your plans, believe in your business plan, believe in your business ideas and things like that. And everybody will have a different presumption, a different idea, a different approach to perception about the whole thing. So that's something where you learn, how to convince, how to negotiate, how to, go through a conflict, how to manage a crisis through words. How do you convince others? Now, we may know this in the context of our home. When you're sitting, and if you have siblings, many of you may have siblings, and if you're trying to convince your sibling, that's the toughest part in the world. And if many of you have done that, well, great job, because a sibling is one person who doesn't really appreciate whatever you're saying, and the sibling is one person who will continuously, argue with you and constantly nag you about your belief systems. But if you're able to convince and negotiate your way through your sibling, or you can negotiate your way through any CEO in this world. So that's the primary idea. But when you watch this movie, what happens is you have this constant understanding that, oh wow, that's the way to react, and that's the way not to react. If somebody is getting all hassled up, oh, that's the way not to react. You get that understanding constantly going in your brain. You're thinking, that's not the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And you kind of get an understanding. Now, I'm not going to list you out a lot of movies out here, but I want to talk about this curiosity thing. Now, one of the things which you need to understand about management is you should not think in silos. Say, for example, if I tell you a movie about marketing or branding or, advertising or something like that, or data analytics, for example, you're not supposed to think that, oh my God, he's talking about marketing, so let me switch off for the time being, and then let me wait for him to talk about finance, because that's what my interest area is. Because in management, there's nothing called a silo like finance or marketing or HR or operations or data analytics. Everything comes together and makes money for the organization. That's how it is. So you need to know something or the other about each and everything. And you get curious about each and everything. That curiosity is what builds your knowledge. That curiosity is what makes you feel like clicking on a hyperlink and going ahead. I mean, many of you would have, I'm sure, people who are interested in entertainment. So if you like something, what you do is, let me click on this particular thing. Let me see what Amir Khan is doing, or let me see what, what is it? The lady, the Bhatt, the lady, I forget the names, Hrithik Roshan, or, the lady who's Alia Bhatt. Yeah, any of those or a movie of hers, you read about that, and then you go ahead and click on something which is a hyperlink to another interview of hers that you read about that. What happens is when you start talking to you about Alia Bhatt, especially the men, if I start talking to you about Alia Bhatt, then you may know a lot of things about Alia Bhatt. And if I talk to the women, they may know a lot of things about the new age actor. I don't know, Hrithik Roshan or any of the new age actors. So that's the essence. Primarily, you tend to read stuff and you tend to get a little curious, and that's the reason why you go ahead. People who are interested in certain hobbies, the reason why you tend to like a certain thing or tend to read a lot about certain things is because you love that thing, you're passion for that thing, and you go ahead and want to understand more. You think clicking and clicking and clicking, you go ahead and start reading more about it. So the same thing applies to management, So I will give you some examples of what kind of, stuff that you can watch. Say, for example, in marketing, I will say something called, if you are into Netflix, then you can read about you can watch Inside Bill's Brain, especially that's Bill Gates, the Bill Gates story. It's just 1 hour, so it's got it's not just 1 hour. One episode is about 40 minutes, so it's about 4 episodes, so about 160 hours of viewing. But it's brilliant how Bill Gates understands things. But when you watch it, what happens is when you watch it, you're like, oh my God, this guy is brilliant. This is amazing. How does he do this? So we always try to remember. What happens with all of us is we try to remember things so that in the next call with our friends or with our family, we can tell, "Pata hai, Bill Gates 5 book padhta hai ek mahine mein," and we get excited about those kind of numbers and things like that. But in reality, you got to wonder, how do you read 5 books and how do you make sure that you read the right things? Now that's the skill which is required. And that involves bringing curiosity into the equation. Bringing curiosity into the equation is what happens. Now, when you start doing this on a constant basis as to what 5 books does Bill Gates refer, or what 5 books does Bill Gates tell me to read, if you search on Google, you'll find those books. And if you can search for those books, and if you get those books and read those books, then you'll start getting curious. You start breaking your perceptions. We all have perceptions in our mind. Like, for example, all Chinese products are not very good. Or every French product is about, romantic illusion or design. Every Italian product is luxurious. Gucci, Armani, Ferrari, Lamborghini, that sort of thing. We all have perception, but it's not the truth. It's not the real thing. Every German product has got great technology. No, not the real thing. But that's a perception. Or for example, I don't know how many people are there. I think there are 171 students here who are participating, or 171 participants are here in this group. I'm sure there will be some people here who don't watch cricket. But if you go across the world and if you ask people about India, they'll say, that's a cricket watching nation. Every Tom, Dick and Harry in this country watches cricket. No. That's wrong. That's a perception. And the same thing goes with Brazil also. We sit here and think that everybody in Brazil watches football and they go dancing around, in cha-cha. Nope. That's not the way it is. It's different. But you need to know, you need to learn what exactly are the real things which happen. That's the skill of the management graduate. The management graduate needs to, kind of push himself to learn what is the real thing, what is the fact. Now, in terms of movies, there's a movie called The Founder. The Founder is about McDonald's, the complete McDonald's story. Many of you may have watched it, It's a brilliant story, and it's almost the fact, it's almost the truth, what they have showed, and how lethal he was, how innovative he was, and how brilliant he was. And there are some, of course, negative sides also. Every businessman has it, and every business situation has it. Otherwise, you can't build a massive empire. So when you watch something like that, again, you need to understand what exactly is the process. How did the franchisee model change because of McDonald's as a company? So that's something which you need to grasp on. You watch the movie, you sit there, and you think, okay, there are some real good things here, and I can go ahead and talk to my friends about it. I can share it with my family about it. I can share it with my, the people who surround me with all these stories. But what more can you do about it? What more? I mean, there will be questions in your brain. If you're having a lot of questions in your brain, that means those questions have to be answered. And that is the one skill which every management student needs to have questions in their brain when they're watching something, whether it is, Inside Bill's Brain or Pursuit of Happiness or McDonald's and real estate business or anything. how does it work? How does it really work? Because a movie or a documentary will show you only a little bit of things. And it throws questions to you so that you can get curious and start asking those questions. And your generation is the luckiest one because we have Google immediately sitting there after the movie in your hand, and you keep searching. And when you start searching, you will start finding new things to search for. I want to get into all the movies, but first thing I want to tell you a scenario, a situation where, say for example, I don't know how many people are interested in data analytics and machine learning and artificial intelligence and big data and all that. But remember this, that's the future. Data analytics is the future. The reason being, everything that we do is, kind of recorded somewhere. Everything that we do, whatever we buy, we get recorded somewhere. Whatever we, where we use credit cards, it gets recorded somewhere. We put the petrol in our car, it gets recorded somewhere. We talk over the phone, it gets recorded somewhere. The kind of stuff that we kind of chat sometimes over WhatsApp with brand names in there, it gets recorded somewhere. The comments that you put on YouTube, it gets recorded somewhere. So people know exactly what you're searching for, what are you doing, what are your beliefs, what are your perceptions. A lot of people, a lot of companies know about this thing. So they get a lot of, insights about you, and that's how they market to you, and that's how they sell things to you. But from that perspective, when you look at data analytics, in reality, I mean, this is something which I got while I was watching a documentary called The Great Hack. The Great Hack is a documentary on Netflix, which is about Cambridge Analytica, which is a company which uses data analytics to do a lot of things. Now, many of you may have watched it, but what really came into my mind is, it's too complex when you watch it. You're looking at it and you're like, my goodness, they're talking about behavior of people, how to change behavior. That's extremely complex. But if you keep it, bring it to a simplistic form, say for example, so that's where the example comes in. Say your mom, your mom is the best example in the world. And now you're all sitting at home. So now you may know this particular thing. Your mom buys provisions and household material, household stuff, especially food stuff, every month in the first week or so. And there's a particular amount that she buys, whether it is rice, whether it is pulses, whether it is vegetables, whether it is eggs, whether it is red chili powder, or whether it is coriander powder or whatever. There's a particular amount that she makes sure she does. Now I'll take it a little further. If I don't know, in our generation, it was like this. When my dad used to go out and buy stuff monthly, it used to be a mess. The reason being, he always buys more. Always. But when my mom buys, it's almost always precise and perfect, So how does she manage this particular thing? Now, if you look at it from an analytical point of view, from a data point of view, look at the data points which are available. How much rice, how much atta, a kilo, 5 kilos of rice, 10 kilos of atta, 1.5 kilos of pulses of the other, the green pulse, the yellow pulse, the white pulse or whatever, and the vegetables, how many exactly kilograms of vegetable, how many liters of oil. All these are data points. I hope you understand. All these are data points and all these are numbers, kilograms, liters, and numbers. So that's the first data point. Now, if you start building this data, you'll get a particular structure of what exactly does mom buy for the whole month and how many different things. Now, if you start talking to your mom, how do you plan every day's breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinner? How do you plan that? Now, she'll tell you, she may not have a precise way, but she will tell you a way how she plans it for the whole month if you start asking her the right questions. So when she tells you that, note that down also. Now, from the basis of this, now you got the data, yeah? You put it in an Excel sheet, you put this data, or you put it on paper, and you're like, okay, this is set. The data is set. Now I have to clean the data if there is something unnecessary, some things which are not necessary to be put in the data. Like for example, the paste we buy or the brush that we buy and all those things may not be necessary for a monthly analysis. Now, how do we analyze? How do we get there to analyze? What do we analyze out of this? I'll tell you. If at all you have a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old person at home, then their food habits ought to be different to be healthy. And so is the 20-year-old, which is you, ought to be different if you're supposed to be healthy. Now, when you say healthy, now we have a lot of perceptions about healthy. We don't exactly know how many calories does healthy count for a 20-year-old versus a 50-year-old. Now, once we understand how do we understand how many calories is required for this individual and the other individual? Now, when we start trying to understand that, that's when the research is important. The research of, whether say Indian Medical Association, which is ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, you can go to their website and try to understand how many calories does it make for a person who is diabetic, how many calories does it make for a person who is non-diabetic, how many calories does it make it healthy for a person who is 50 years old, how many calories does it make it healthy for a person who is 20-year-old. Once you get this data out of the research that you do in ICMR or Indian Nutrition Society or American Medical Association or American Nutrition Society, when you understand this data, when you start reading a lot of things, you'll start understanding what exactly is the figure. You put this data also into the Excel sheet. Now you have an understanding. Now you need to know the calorie count of the things which I told you earlier, which is your rice, your pulses, your grains, and all those things. Once you understand the amount of good calories in those things, now you can keep putting for a 50-year-old mom and dad or a 45-year-old mom and dad, this is the amount of calories they can intake on a daily basis. For a 20-year-old me, this is the calorie intake which is good. And how with this will I reach this calorie intake? Now you measure the number of cups of rice or cups of pulses or number of fruits which is required on a daily basis. What happens is when you start having an in-depth understanding of what exactly is happening in terms of good calorie intake, in terms of health calorie intake, you suddenly have a big picture emerging. And this big picture you can utilize for everything. Think about it. All the universities in this country has got some kind of a mess or a canteen or something. You can sell that particular information. The utility value of the information is very high. But the amount of research you did, from data collection to data cleaning, to much more insight about data, to why you want to search for it, to coming to an insight about it, which is useful for the society as well as your family, you reach that understanding. Now, I got this idea from The Great Hack, the movie called The Great Hack. Now, in the movie called The Great Hack, when I asked a student to watch it, he watched it, and he was like, अरे सर ट्रम्प तो बड़ा अजीब सा आदमी है उसने तो इसको यूज कर लिया. So he was looking at the dramatic side of things. You know what I'm saying? He was not looking at the need of understanding more about data analytics, need of understanding what exactly does behavioral change and behavioral thing bring into the play. He was not looking at that perspective. So that's what I said. Movies are fantastic. Movies are great for learning. I can give you a list of movies, like for example, if you want to learn about venture capital, you got to go through Something Ventured. There's a documentary called Something Ventured. If you want to learn about finance, if you want to really understand finance, and every single student, I believe, should go through this, The Ascent of Money. The name of the documentary is Ascent of Money, which is available on YouTube. It is very lengthy. It's about 12 episodes or something. But remember, the book is about 2,000 pages. So, it's better to, if at all you're not used to reading books, then this is the thing. The Ascent of Money explains to you finance as a way I have never seen. I am not a finance student. I'm not a finance faculty. I don't have much understanding of finance except for putting money in the stock market. But the real concept of finance and the value of money and the way money has taken over our lives can be easily understood by the movie Ascent of Money. Now, there is a channel called, this is within YouTube, you can check out. It's called PBS Frontline. And there you can watch a lot of stories, a lot of stuff about different companies that you may be interested in. You'll understand the depth of it. So what I would like to emphasize is the people who are interested in data analytics and big data and data insights and things like that, you should not just jump into these courses or just go ahead and say, this is the coolest thing to do, so let me do it. Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing it, let me also do it. It should not be like that. You should not go into that kind of jump. You should be, I mean, personally, I have started learning data analytics. Now, where did I start from? You know, I started from Mathematics for Machine Learning, which is a course, and it is a very small course, Mathematics for Machine Learning. This course is on Coursera by the Imperial College of London. Now, in this course, they teach you the simple aspects of statistics, simple aspects of probability, and the simple basic math, which is required for data analytics. Now, the essence is you can't get into a data analytics course and you can't sit through a data analytics course if you don't know this particular basic math, because you will be completely confused. And at the end of the day, when you start looking at data, you'll be like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? You know? So get the basics right. Now, to get the basics right, movies are an amazing vehicle, because movies bring in curiosity. Movies bring in cynicism. Movies bring in a lot of questions. I mean, when you start answering those questions one by one, you start having an idea and understanding that, hey, I need to learn this to understand this. I need to learn this to understand this. And you start learning and learning and learning and learning. And learning is a process, not just now. It's not just when you're sitting at home. It is not just when COVID-19 is happening and it's a crisis. Learning is something which is supposed to go on and on and on. And I'm not asking you to spend all your time learning. You know, that's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you, you watch a movie for about 2 hours. You go through YouTube for about an hour or so. You may be going through Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and all that all together. If you mix up, I don't know how many hours you spend. You may be spending about an hour or more than that. So I think you can spend about 1.5 hours for learning every day. Yeah, and when you're learning, and I personally believe in this, when you're watching very heavy stuff, when I say heavy, intellectually heavy stuff, like for example, The Great Hack or Decoding Bill's Brain or Something Ventured or any of those kind of documentaries or something, you're supposed to take a break also after that, because otherwise this thing will get clogged in your brain. You'll be like, oh my God, there's too much stuff in here. So how do you take a break? That's up to you. I mean, that's your perspective. But I personally believe in watching a really trashy movie like Avengers or something like that, you know. So because you don't really have to think anything in Avengers, you know, they're shooting themselves, you know, they are killing each other and they are shooting people. I don't know what all they're doing. There are monsters coming out of nowhere and all that stuff happening. So you don't really have to think. You just have to sit there and keep looking at those images, and you're like, okay, kuch to ho raha hai, you know. So that kind of thing, which is wonderful for your brain, because you get snappy. You can snap out of that equation of taking heavy. But then after doing that, you got to go back to your questions you asked. You got to get back into the curiosity building thingy, and you got to start thinking, oh, this is what I'm supposed to learn. So one of my students told me that he's getting really bored right now with all the WhatsApp and the videos and the reading and the learning and all that, sitting at home, because he can't step out. And most of you guys will be facing that situation at home, I'm sure, because whatever said and done, you know, how much ever they can say, lock yourself down and be socially distant and all that, it is like an awkward thing to do, because whatever said and done, we are used to mixing up with people and talking to them and playing games with them and walking around with them and things like that. So it's a very tough change that is happening. So in between all this, I would like to state also that have fun in everything that you do. And one of the best funs that you can do, yesterday I saw a video, a small girl, a little girl showcased this video on Facebook. She said, I think mommy and papa can talk to us a little bit more, you know. So that's something which you guys can also do. You can talk to your mom and dad. You can talk to your siblings. You know, we're all stuck on our phones most of the time. Otherwise, we can just sit with our cup of tea and have a good chit chat with them. You know, talk about stuff that you learned. Let's talk about stuff that you, like for example, you attended this session. You can talk about this session. And you can say that this dude, this bald guy from Jaipuria, he was talking about all these things, and we heard him, and it was kind of fun. or whatever. You know, the essence is getting a conversation going and making people feel that, hey, I'm also doing stuff and I'm also involved, and I like the fact that you guys are here appreciating your mom and dad and things like that. So that's something, again, that's something which I learned from a video, by the way. A small girl, I think she is probably 7 or 8 years old, maybe. She's talked about it for about 2-3 minutes, and it was brilliant. I mean, you learn from everybody, you learn from everything. That's an essence which is. So I'll tell you what, one of my students learned almost everything when it comes to communication, or English communication to be precise, through Despicable Me and Incredibles and Toy Story, you know, those kind of movies. He kept watching cartoon movies. And what he did in the initial stages was, when he was watching those movies, he used to watch it with the subtitles so that he can understand, you know. And then when he started to understand a little bit, he went ahead and disabled the subtitles. And then he started listening and listening and listening, and his listening skills are so extraordinary because he was craving and trying to figure out how to listen. Now, I'll tell you what, he did not learn this to become a good management graduate or to do a business or anything like that. He did not want to improve his English communication to do that. He wanted to improve his English communication so that he can talk to the girls. Now, see, that's the essence, you know. It's all about why you want to do it, and there could be a good possibility that your passion will increase, and it will become wow if your why is wow. You know, so I don't find any fault. I mean, who the hell cares if he's learning it to talk to girls or a girl is learning it to talk to the boys? You know, who the hell cares about that? The essence is, after 3-4 months, oh man, that guy can talk. That guy could talk very well. And that guy could impress while he's talking. So I'm like, fantastic. Now that you know how to talk to the girls, let's talk about business also. You know, so that sort of thing. So it's more important, you know, if you understand, if you start looking at things in a different way, and if you start looking at different perspectives of the same thing, you will start to get more and more to talk about. First thing, your content starts improving. You know. Your ability to have a good conversation starts improving. Your ability to sit down and have a healthy conversation starts improving. People start respecting you because you have opinion about everything. And opinion is not one-sided or biased. It is opinion from every single point of view. You know, like the way I told you about all Indians being vegetarian. You know, quite a number of Western countries think that all Indians are vegetarian, which is not the case. You know, Indians love their bird. They love chicken, you know. So that's the essence. So that's a perception which some of you can break. And there are a lot of things which will happen while you're working, where you'll understand when you start working in the corporate world, a lot of people come into meeting rooms with perceptions. If I send you a mail saying about filmmaking or how to learn from filmmaking, and you got that mail saying that how to learn from watching films, you may have had a perception that this guy is going to talk this way or this way or this way or something like that. I don't know. But when you come to the session and if it has given you a different perspective, then it helps me, you know, that, okay, something else has happened and something worthwhile has happened. So the same thing goes for you. Whenever you start speaking to people, whenever you start talking to people, whether it is business people, whether it is your professors, whether you walk into the classroom and you have all these wonderful questions in your brain, you start giving that professor a perception that, hey, this guy is intelligent. If I push him more, he can become better. If I push her more, she can become better. So it's like a constant. You're basically pushing the other individual to help you to become better if you start being intellectually proficient. So start doing this and start watching. And in terms of the movies, I mean, if you want a list of something, I'll send you a document. I mean, I'll send it to your mentors and the mentors can send it to you. I'll send you a document of all the movies and all the details of the movies and an idea about what exactly the movie is all about and all that. I'll send you that list. That's primarily information. Now, many of you would know, we can, you know, many of you would know that information and knowledge is very different things. So that's the idea. So whatever I told you just now is for you to think, and is for you to apply, and is for you to go out there and do something about it. While the list that I'll send you through your mentors of all these movies and documentaries and everything would be something which you can use as information, and you can use it at your own will. And of course, You can watch your own movies. And don't forget to watch fun movies also, okay, while you're doing all this. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I mean, I don't know, oh yeah, okay. There are a lot of things in there. So I'll check it out. I'll check out the chat box. If you have any questions, I'll send you the questions. And thank you very much. Appreciate your being here. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abhijit sir, for this wonderful session. And thank you all you guys for attending. Thank you so much. So will you be taking some questions?
I'll check if there is anything. I mean, if they have any questions, I'll check. Let me see.
I don't see actually. There are no questions.
Turning कुछ लोगों की दुखती रक्त पे हाथ रख दिया सर ने. Animations are best for learning. Yeah, they are. They are. Self burns, those are rare, sir. Okay. Mano ek samajik prani hai. Okay. Even everything has insights. That's why data analytics is important. Yes, man. Yes. McDonald's is real estate business. Yep. And thank you for that suggestion in between. Whosoever did that, I liked it. You know, Alia Bhatt, Mr. Sandeepan Bhur. Thank you very much for that. You know, I forgot Alia Bhatt's name. Sorry. Okay. I'll send you the movie names. I will send you a list of movie names on a PDF document or something. I will send it to your mentors and your mentors will forward it to you. Okay? So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, again. With your due permission, should I end this meeting?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you all.